Let me give you an example of a smartphone taxi app. What is the customer wanting to do? He wants to call a taxi. This is a B2C, but he wants to call a taxi. He wants to call, he wants to find a taxi. He wants to give directions and he wants to pay. In doing that, he has a pain. He has to wait for a long time. He's not sure about the driver. He has to compete with other customers. Somebody else will come and take the cab and go before he can get in. It happens. Overcharging, he doesn't know whether he's, these are the pains and concerns. And some of the gains are there. Can he arrive on time? Will there be any payment problems, cash change and all that? And so stuff like that. So what is the taxi company doing? They're saying instant booking. You just press the button, so there's no waiting time. Driver is assigned. You can talk to him. Cost system is very transparent. No cash, no change problem. It's very clear. So painkillers are there. They give you a visual map. So your gain is you know where the taxi is. Even if you're waiting, you have some information and you're comforted. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it says to come. You have a rating system, so you also know how good the driver is. Even the passengers are rated, right? So you have a faith in the system. So once you understand this, what is happening here, then you can come to this. If you start from this and create some product and say, now I'll go and find a customer who has a need, it may not work out. Then it's a needle in a haystack. You want a product ready in the lab. Many startups do that. They are very passionate about their product. They think that because they love their product, everybody else will love it. But when they go out, they find nobody cares. That's why most of the startups fail. But you start from the customer and go back. You will find that you may have to modify a product a little bit, quite a bit actually. And they will give you suggestions how to make the product sell, because they know their concerns, right? So what we are trying to do in the first step is really first understand the problem. Are we solving a real problem, or are we just trying to push a product where there is no problem? Is there a problem? Your product. Is there a problem you're trying to solve? Awareness of aeronautics is less. What is the problem therefore? What problem?
After 10 years, the flights will become like bus and space travel.
So you believe that 10 years from now, the 5-year-old kid will need to know far more about aeronautics. But customer may not even realize that. So you must understand, this is what you're thinking. You must understand why your customers are buying. You said you already have how many customers? 400. How many schools? 8 schools. 8 schools have bought your product. Do you know whether they bought it for the reason that you're saying or for some other reason? You need to find out. Okay, because I don't know if somebody would be looking that far ahead and saying, I will invest in this because my son has to fly in space tomorrow. I don't know. That is you have a certain vision. They may think it's fun. Somebody is teaching me aeronautics through dance, it's fun. That's all they care about.
That's the kind of alternate education.
Yeah.
That also
So you must understand what is it that fires the people to buy your product, and you must go and sell. You will find far more customers if you understand what is that problem you're trying to solve. If they're getting bored, if the parents feel that children are spending too much time on mobile phones, let's say, I want them to.
That's also a problem you're trying to solve.
If that is a problem, and if more and more customers are saying, I want to get my kid away from mobile phone, then you have a solution. But if you say, I want them to learn space flying, I don't know.
Problem is education.
Yeah. So therefore the problem is something. Then is that the right way to solve the problem is the next question. I mean, right? You may think that once a customer has articulated a problem, there may be various ways of solving that. So it's an opportunity for you to pause and say, is what I'm offering the best? Or is there something that it can do the job better and cheaper? If you finally decide on the product beforehand and go, then you're stuck. it may be difficult for you to accept that there is a change required. So best is, if you're not sure, understand the problem, develop the solution around that problem, okay, and then get a fit. Is the solution actually solve the problem, and is the customer going to pay us for it? Somebody has to pay. If there is nobody wants to pay, then there is no product. So what you do in this case is, if those of you who are in this state, right, you tap your own network, you prepare a problem presentation. Don't prepare your product presentation. Prepare your problem presentation and say, I think this is the problem that you face, or can I ask some questions to understand whether you really have this problem. Don't try to sell, just solicit feedback initially to see where is the issue. You will get tremendous insight into the customer, because they are not biased by your product, or they are not biased by what you're trying to sell them. The moment we try to sell to customers, they will form resistance and objections in their mind. Anybody would. I know if I get a phone call and somebody tries to sell me an insurance product, I would probably say I'm meeting. So there is a tendency for customers to little bit take a pause if you're trying to sell something. Rather than that, best is to ask them as many questions about what is their problems today. If it is a problem, fortunately something that you can address, you got to fit straight away. It makes your job that much more easier. And then you can also do external industry analysis, so you can widen your understanding. Okay. So this is what we do. I'm saying, when you go and meet a customer, try to put yourself in his, what does he see? When he is operating, that's why I said, when you say Gadkari, what does he see? How does he see India? How does a psychologist see what is happening around him? Sometimes observation is enough. You just have to sit in the clinic and watch. We really come to know how the person is actually, what stress he is undergoing, and those are valuable insights we get into the customer. Okay. So in this state, what happens is, there is a product development team which all of you would be part of, and there is a customer development which happens, and they work in sequence. So you meet the customer, you understand some things from him, come back, develop the product, go back, check it. So it's an iterative process. Okay. I'll just skip this. So what we talk about is a minimum viable product. When you're doing a customer discovery, what's the difference between the top and the bottom? Yeah. What does the customer want here? What is the problem what problem are we trying to solve? Transportation. Customer wants to move from point A to point B, let's say. Okay, faster. So what has this company done? I'll tell you, it looks very silly here. It looks obvious, right? But normally we end up, because we have this in our mind, we already know the best solution we can offer. We are trying to push this all the time. But because the price is high, or because it's so we are trying to push it in parts. You may say, I have the big product, but I will sell it to you in parts. In a car it looks very silly, but when you're offering a service or something else, if you already have the end in mind and you're trying to push something, you don't know whether the customer is going to buy that final product. You're giving him something here. Better than that is, give him something for which he is getting benefit today at a low price. Because if you have a lot of features in your product, you don't need to sell all the features on day one, because those features will add cost, both in your product development as well as the customer's price and the time it takes to make. So you sell the lowest minimum viable product, he's okay, because he's tasting something new. If you're offering you just do one small step. Okay, once they're familiar with that, you can offer the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Is it? Yeah. So that's how it goes. Do not do this kind of product development. Just iterate. Do something, go back, change it. So this is how product development is done in this case, okay? And what we find is, what happened? In any market, there are these people. There will be, even among let's say psychologists, or among schools, or among even institutions, there are early adopters. There are people who want to try anything that comes first day, first show, or they stand in a line to buy an apple. There are people who want to be known as first in the line, and they are the early adopters and the innovators. Who are those people is what we need to find. Even if you find, for example, Bombay may be most advanced in your transportation system, we don't know, but there may be some Bangalore or some small city which may be even better than that. So they want to, so these are the people who will be your early customers, especially if you are in a new product, in a new market, right? Going from here to here is the challenge. So, but you will first address these, and your initial minimum viable product will be taking care of these people, and then you would be working on the product may be completely different. Those who are following, those who are leading will give you inputs and say, do this for my product, it will help. So these people will actually help in your product development. These people are not going to help you. If the product works, how many people have used it, what is the rating, then I will buy. Okay? I don't know what's happening. Some of these things are not correct. Okay. Now we come to selling. Is there any doubts so far? We've just covered customer discovery and customer validation, because where there's a startup, I thought I'll touch this. Now we are really getting into selling, B2B selling, right? Any doubts so far in what we covered? Does it? Customer validation. Customer validation. That means you have discovered a customer. You found that there are certain set of customers who have the problem, a similar kind of problem, for which your solution fits in. Now you need to see if many of such customers, for example, how do you reach out to them? How do you market your product? So validation is, are they going to come and buy your product? Okay, so that's the next level. You're able to repeat it. You make one sale, you're able to repeat the sale. Okay, so then you're saying I can scale up. Who does most of the talking? Customer. Normally seller does most of the talking, but who should do? Buyer should do. Why do we say buyer should do? Yeah. Why we are saying buyer should talk is then he's buying in. When he says something, in fact that audio which I can play now, or a little later I'll play, when we say something, as a salesman, if he says something, it's a lie. If the same thing the buyer says, that's the truth. That's how it works in real life. So if you say it, it's not true. Let him say it. Okay? So let him do the talking. How do you get him to talk? Ask questions. There's only one way, ask questions. What kind of questions? What kind of questions? If they are asking you a question, then there is a problem. Then you are defensive and you are explaining. You're not getting anything from them. They are getting information from you. Okay, you can't sell. If you are getting if you don't know anything about the customer, you don't know why he bought. What is his need? Are you happy that he bought for no reason? Is it okay? Or do you think that you should know why he bought? You're not convinced. You're confused about?
Because they ask so many questions.
They will ask. I'm not saying they will not ask. They will ask. What kind of question do they ask?
Sorry? They approach us.
Yeah.
They want to know more about this program.
Okay.
They want to enroll in it.
Okay.
So they ask so many questions like how it's conducted, what is the reason, how it's different from normal education, and why it's specifically aeronautics. All these questions they'll ask. So what I did, we prepared one FAQ with some 20 questions. I told them, I'll tell them, I'm going to send you an online link with FAQs. You can go through all the questions. If you have any more doubts, you can call me back.
After that, what happens?
And they register online and they enroll their kid.
So once you satisfy their queries, they are happy.
Yes.
But how do you know whether they can pay?
They
Huh?
when they enroll it, we
You take advance.
when they attend the first session, they will pay that. Yeah.
But there are a lot of things you need
Not
to know.
advance, they pay the full fee and they
Full
join.
fee in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are many things in a customer that you may need to know.
Yeah.
Whether they can pay, do they have, what is the requirement they have apart from what you're selling to them? Is there anything else that they can buy from you? Right? I'm just saying that when in the B2B, it is not just, sale is not a transaction. Sale is a relationship.
True.
Right? So if they fill up a FAQ list, is there a relationship? Or you're building relationship during conducting
Conducting sessions.
Who are those people whom you meet during conducting?
Parents and kids.
Parents and kids. But who is paying for it?
Parents.
Parents are paying.
Yeah.
The school is not paying.
School is not.
But
school will pay.
School is paying whom?
Us.
School is paying you, right?
Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Parents are paying to the school. School is paying you.
That's one part of the program. Certain programs we conduct separately. The parents will come directly and pay us, enroll their kid. So that time we get to meet the parents, have interaction. Once the relationship is made, it's going to be.
So that is the interaction.
Yes.
When you're talking to parents, you're going to listen to them. What have they got any benefit from that course? What do the children like it? Is there something new they want?
Yes.
There's always that interaction going on.
We love it when they ask more questions. So that's
They are asking more questions.
Yeah. So that helps us to improve.
Anybody else with a similar experience that customer asks more questions?
The kind of services where we have,
Yeah,
they are pretty curious.
they are curious.
Another thing is, if you ask me, if the customer asks more questions, I know whether for what reason he is buying, and only then this becomes sustainable, because in a B2B selling, it is not just one time you sell it and you move on. It is actually a long-term process. In fact, you need to have the renewals. You need to have a long and sustaining. So unless you know the reason for why he's buying,
How do you know that reason? That's the point.
only by making him talk.
Making him
whether
talk.
he has a real pain,
Right.
is there is a real need to the service or the product.
right.
That only comes only when you allow him to talk and he starts.
But you need to prompt him to say something, right?
Absolutely.
So certain questions you have to ask him.
Probing questions need to be asked.
Yeah. So more he talks, more, in your case the customer is asking questions, but he is doing the talking. Ideally, if you ask him questions, you will come to know. And for that, it's better to plan in advance and go, because I don't know, any of you are in large sale situation. Are you selling an equipment? You're selling some equipment. You're not selling equipment, you're selling service. Anybody selling equipment or a service?
In our case, when we speak to the customers, how do we initiate the call? As soon as we say we are working on this product and working on solving this problem, they directly jump to the.
They start asking questions like, show me your product and all. So how do we
What is
handle
your
such
product?
questions? So we are developing robots that
going
travel
under.
inside the pipeline to
Okay.
identify leaks.
Okay.
So when I start asking questions, they ask
What
me.
kind of questions you ask them?
My questions are mostly focused on their problems.
Okay.
So
What question you ask?
like how do they maintain their pipelines, since most of them are buried under the ground? In case there is a leakage, how do you identify the leakages? So they start asking do you have a solution for it? If so, can you show it to me now? So I cannot go further forward from there.
What do you do?
I say it is under development, and I want to know more about their problem. But still, some of the customers were insistent on show me the product and will take this
It
discussion.
also, I think, depends on who you're talking to. Who's the what role is he playing in the company?
He was head of the department, pipeline maintenance department.
He was head of maintenance.
Yeah.
And you believe he will benefit more.
He is the decision maker, so
He is the decision maker for this equipment.
yeah, whether to use it or not.
What is the value proposition you're giving him?
Identifying the leakages that are not seen from outside.
How does it help him?
Reduce their product loss, water loss.
Is he responsible for that?
He is, sir.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he responsible for water loss?
He is
Or the
responsible.
production guy? Maintenance person is responsible, or who's finally accountable for losses?
Maintenance department.
Maintenance is responsible. What is the losses per month?
Like
Is he shared?
almost 50% of the water is lost. 50% of the water sent into the pipelines is lost.
No, but is he being questioned for that?
They accept that 50% is
That's
being
what I'm
lost.
saying. So he doesn't have a pain.
They're accepting that.
He doesn't have the pain. He's accepted 50% loss.
Yeah.
That's okay. Nobody is questioning him, right?
I mean, they keep telling that we are trying to solve it.
That's fine. They have to say that. They can't say I have X. But reality is that's not a pain area. If it were oil, if it were some other liquid which is valuable, then they won't say 50% is chalega. It is water. So you may like to examine whether
No, not just leakages, but they do a lot of unnecessary digging. When the customer complains that we are getting contaminated water, in order to find out where the contamination is happening, they dig at random locations, and that increases cost a lot.
correct. So that's a pain.
That's a pain.
Did he say that?
Uh,
So is your value proposition, therefore, there is not losses. Your value proposition is unnecessary digging or whatever pain that he's having and identifying the leakage. That pain you are reducing.
yeah.
Would that be a better value proposition than saying reducing losses?
Could be. Like the interviews that I conducted were like 1 year ago.
Yeah.
So in this 1 year, we found out that these are the collateral damages that are happening.
See, that's why when you talk to a customer, it's important to know what is worrying him. It is not what we think it is. We may think saving material is important. Like same Gadkari example. Transporting twice the number of people is important. It may not be worrying him, possibly. So therefore you've taken 1 year. You met the customer 1 year ago, but I think you're still trying to make a sale with him, let's say.
Yeah, at that time we was at the beginning of the product development.
Yeah, correct. Maybe, but has he shown interest now, after 1 year?
We are yet to contact them again.
So you have not contacted them again. So, how would you analyze what happened? One is, you went to him and said that I have a solution for your problem. And my understanding of your problem is you are having 50% wastage. Okay. He started asking you how we are going to solve the problem. So he was more interested in the technology of it, I guess, right? Because a maintenance engineer would like to talk about technology. Okay, because that is knowledge for him. That's a gain. He can talk to 10 other people and say, look, these 2 guys came from IIT, I've learned something. He may be satisfied with that. Whether he's going to buy the product or not, we don't know. Whether he will buy, if that cost of buying will going to save him some, he has to justify to his economic buyer who will come and say, if you bought a robot or you're buying this service, what is the payback? So the payback has to be worked out by you. And tell him, yeah, you're wasting X amount of manpower. Every time there's some customer who calls up and says there is some leakage or mix-up of water, you're sending an army of people to go and locate that leakage, and you're digging and you're creating more problem. So if you calculate the entire cost of that, for that you need to ask him as many questions as possible. And say, now my solution is cheaper than this. Or before you even say that, we'll come to how to make the customer say, give me a cheaper solution. Okay?
But many times what happens? discuss these, themselves only. And they even don't want to disclose this.
Why? Why do you say that?
Maybe a stage or whatever be the reason, but they don't want to disclose. They consider this to be confidential and they don't want to disclose.
No. Possible. They don't want to show that they are not. See, it's a way of getting information directly or indirectly. You can't tell your customer how much are you wasting every month. You may not get an answer. But there may be other ways. For example, what is the product that you are talking about?
Electric bike.
Electric bike again, yeah. So what is that they don't want to share in your case?
Like in terms of how much they spend money in this, how much of the money is spent in their operation cost?
Take the mic.
How much of the money? How much of the money they spend in the operations? Those are the mostly information they don't want to disclose.
But you need it.
Yeah.
You need it. Right?
Yeah.
So how do you get it out? You can ask them indirectly.
Like?
You can ask them what percentage of what is the percentage of maintenance cost over asset cost. Something of that sort. I mean, they will not give you directly. You'll have to put 2-3 numbers together. Ask how many times, for example, there is a breakdown. Okay, when a breakdown happens, what is the repair cost for one? The other thing is, what is the downtime? If the machine is not available or vehicle is not available, they are losing revenue because it would have gone and picked up passengers. That's not going to happen. Opportunity loss. So if you ask him questions which are broken up, you may be able to add it up and come to there are some things that they will be willing to share. A direct question of what is your maintenance expense every year may be difficult to answer. But how many times a month do you get a breakdown? How many vehicles do you have? You may not get exact answers, but you'll get a feel of it. You'll have to, that is what questioning technique is. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not able to show that big picture. For some reason it's not coming here. But there is a technique called SPIN. I mean, all the challenges that you're facing, meeting customers and getting information from them, we proposed an approach called SPIN, which is something that you can, to understand the customer better, this is done by a person called Neil Rackham, who has studied so many successful salespeople in the B2B segment, and he has suggested this approach. Okay. Now, the first set of questions that you ask are situation questions. Okay. That means you're asking the customer about this current situation, which is facts. There is no, just to establish a context. Okay. Next, that stands for S, situation question. P stands for problem questions. Okay. So, today, can you name some of the problems? Can be one very general way of saying, but if you're asking him about maintenance of automobiles, you say, what are the typical problems you face in maintaining automobiles or cars? Okay, that's a problem question. So what happens is the buyer starts revealing something. When you ask, everybody likes to talk about their problems. The moment you say, can you name some of the challenges you have? They start opening out. Then they're giving you some implied needs. They're problems, but they're not needs yet. They just say that, yeah, I'm wasting a lot of time, or I'm not able to, I'm stressed out, or various reasons. The implication question is very critical. So what? I'm wasting time, so what? My children are spending time on mobile phone, so what? What is the implication of that? How does it, okay, so the buyer is then forced to look beyond this current, what he stated, and say, actually I'm losing money, or actually I am suffering, I'm losing health, or something else. So you are actually probing them to say more about, and they start feeling the pain a little more by the implication question. After that is I. The need payoff question is, so therefore you can, now you know your product, therefore if you say, how would it be if you had a solution, you had a software or you had a service where you could deal with the patient in half the time that you are dealing with them today. Suppose something like that. If you just ask, that's a question, you're not saying, my product gives you that. You're saying, how do you think it will be? How do you think if your buses can carry twice the number of passengers? That's a question you can ask. How do you think if you spend half the money that you're spending, if money is a problem for their rockets, if just imagine if you could launch rockets at half the cost or half the lead time it takes. Next week you can launch. If time is a problem, so you're just asking them, and they say it'll be wonderful, it'll be great. Okay, suppose they say, what do you think if children are dancing and learning aeronautics? You're asking them question, parents. So that's the need payoff. This is the ultimate. Here the buyer is explicitly stating what you want him to say. Yes, I would love to have that. I would love to have a bus which will have, carry twice the number of people. I would love to have a vehicle which is air conditioned, and what is the problem you're trying to solve?
Making two-wheeler comfortable and safe as compared to
Safe and comfortable. So today somebody has to say my two-wheeler is uncomfortable, unsafe. They have to say that. So they should say that. People may say I never fall down today also, though I have a normal two-wheeler. So if you say that, so somebody who's always falling down is the person who's your customer. Somebody, okay. Or see, even if a father says I want to give it to my son, the son will say, look, I'm not going to fall. Why do you think I'll buy that? So you have to find somebody who says, yes, that is an important value for me. That is the need payoff. Once that happens, then you can sell, okay. But typically don't waste time here. This is something you can find from internet or various sources. Don't go and ask a lot of situation questions with the customer. He will think you don't know anything. Basic stuff you're asking. Just ask few just to put him at ease so that he starts talking to you. Quickly jump onto problem. But most of the time you have to focus here. Implication. This is where you spend most of your time with the customer. So you start really interacting with him and he starts, vibing with you. Typical questions. Sorry, yeah.
Typically in Indian environment, when we go and meet up with the customer, people are not very comfortable sharing any information. Typically,
Customer is not comfortable.
Yeah. Typically, interaction goes as, okay, if you have come, tell me what you are here to sell for. So that probing question, getting into that, sometimes is very difficult.
It is difficult. It's a skill. It is a skill because I've also faced it. But you find that when you get into a customer's office, best thing is to find something nice to comment about. The ambience. You tell him that's a lovely, whatever piece of furniture you have there, or I like the view from your window, or something genuine. Okay, not personal comment, but something nice about it, or something outside. You can say that there seems to be a nice painting, So whatever, if you can say something which will disarm him, and then he's not threatened. Normally people get defensive when they feel that you're going to sell them something. So you're not there to sell anything. You're just going to have a conversation, not even an interview. You have a conversation with the customer. Just tell him, please give me 15 minutes. I just want to talk to you. What do we want to talk to you about? I just want to talk to you about your job. About what is it that you're doing. Whatever you want to tell me is fine, because I think that I can help you, but right now I don't know how. But if you can share something about your day-to-day routine and some of the challenges you face there, I'm sure I'll be able to work out something. You don't have a solution yet, but you're just saying, look, I need your inputs. So that is a challenge, yes. But you'll have to find ways of overcoming that. Okay, that situation question helps there. You're simply saying one or two harmless statements so that they feel comfortable. Then you ask them, okay, so what time do you go home or something if you want. If he says late, do you generally stay late till 7, 8 o'clock? Then he will start saying, yeah, my work schedule is like this and so on. So that gives you some leads. So once you do this, you're on your way. Simple question is, if you're going to purchase guy, you say, how do you evaluate a new supplier? This is a simple question because this is an information that is very relevant to you. If you're going as a new supplier, a new product, what is the process they have is something you need to know. And then something, repeat order. Problem, what challenges do you face? Which one? Yeah, so what happens is, they may have some kind of a forecasting system, or they may have a monthly planning cycle, or they will have, some way of sharing information with the supplier so that their production doesn't stop or processes don't stop. So there is a system. One is a new customer, new supplier, where there will be a lot of delay in getting the product accepted or service accepted, because there's a complex decision making process. But once you're in, then repeat orders that come, that should be a smooth sailing. So what is the system they have for that? It's important for you to know, but that will help you to plan your resources, your inventory and whatever other things. These are just open questions for them to start talking. Challenges you face, now you're probing him to tell what are your problems. You're not asking what are your problems, just saying challenges. Some of the recent, you're looking for facts, you don't want theory. So you're asking, can you name some of the recent issues you face? I'm saying if it's your customer, you'll have to see what is the school looking at, right? You're now saying, is there something new you're looking for? These are not for all people. I'm just giving you an example. You'll have to try and work around. You just imagine somebody is trying to sell a product to a company. So he's saying, I'm a new supplier. How do you evaluate me? Situation. Once you evaluate me and accept me, how are you going to deal with me? That is the next question. So then you're saying, are you facing any problem? Why is this question asked? Because I don't want to do the same mistake. If I already know you're facing some problem, I will do something different so that this problem will not happen to you. So let me know in advance. Otherwise, I will make the same mistake. So give me some examples. Is there something beyond the problem that I can offer you? Is there something you're not getting from your current suppliers today? These are things that will, okay? I want to do this. It's not. Now, implication, what are the consequences you face? For example, if he says, I had some delay, I had some breakdown, what is the consequence? How much money was lost? What customer backlash? He would have had his customer backlash. There would have been some, adverse effects. So, need payoff is something which, if this problem were not there, if this problem is solved, how much money you will save? Okay. Now, when you go to a call, it is not, in a simple sale, either you win the order or you don't win the order. It's very straightforward. This is done just to make you all feel that every call does not result in a sale. Every sales call, in a complex sale like B2B, there are 4 outcomes for. One is you actually get the order. Customer says, I'm willing to sign. Commitment is there. That's the ultimate. But even in advance, okay, there are various steps. Suppose he says, I want to visit your factory, or I want to visit your premises, I want your technical person to talk to me, I want to know what is your GST number, for example. Something which is in advance. So, and a failure will be if he says, okay, see me next month. Nothing happened. He's not said no, he's not said yes, but it's a stalemate. That's a possibility. Or he say, I don't want it, I'm not interested. So, okay. So, when you're preparing a sales call, it is useful to plan it like this. What do I want? Do I want an advance? Because I'm going to meet the customer for the first time. What is it I want from? I don't want him to sign a check, but I want to know something, little bit. That's a situation question will help you. Do I want to know more facts? I don't know some things. Can I ask him some facts? Do I have a list of all the problems that he's facing related to my service offering? Those problems are, how is it affecting him, monetarily or otherwise? If it's a safety problem, it's even more serious. He's talking about bike, suppose somebody dies. Is there some very serious implication of bike falling down? And so those are the implications. What are the needs? So explicit needs. As he said, I want to now, once you discuss this, solution is automatic. Okay? So I'm giving you an example of an implication question. I think all of you have heard this. For want of a nail, kingdom was lost. Right? This is a nursery rhyme many of us have learnt in school. That's an implication question. For want of a nail, a shoe was lost. This was the days when horse riders were fighting the war. Horseshoe. Because the horse could not run, the rider could not fight. Rider did not fight, the battle was lost. Kingdom. All because, so there's a small, so basically when somebody gives you a problem, ask him, so what? Okay, why are we doing this? The customer should feel the pain. Literally, he may also not be aware. Many times, as you said, is leaking, he's not bothered. But you can ask a lot of implication questions and say, because of leakage, what is happening? 50% leakage. So he will start connecting and saying, yeah, because of 50% leakage, I'm getting more calls from my customers. If the leakage is stopped, I'll get harassed less. Everybody will be happy. So that's a completely different way of looking at the problem than to say leakage. So the pain area, he is able to connect his pain area with what you are trying to sell to him. That is the connection you have to bring. When you reach this, the prospect will be saying, I really want a solution now. You have to make him say that. This is the effort the salesperson has to put in. Okay, just don't leave it at the surface. Because of this problem, you're talking about your Caterpillar guy moving to some Himalayas or something. What is the pain? Why? Is he losing sale? He understood, that's why he is buying from you, right? Essentially what you're doing, you're tilting the balance. You have a solution, cost of a solution in mind. You know how much you're going to charge him. But you're making the customers feel more and more that he is losing out, and the solution becomes cheaper for him to consider. This is the objective. Okay? So he starts buying. If this goes this side, he will not buy. Is it clear now? What is the implication question and why do we need to ask so many? You are really making the customer feel the need to change. Okay, this basically says you're not even opened your solution yet. You're still talking to the customer about his problem, about the implication of the problem, about the benefits if the problem was solved. You're still talking to him at that level. You're not even opened your bag and said, this is what I have. But literally, you're making him say the things that you're going to say next. He's saying, I want something where it will not fall down, bike will not fall down. I want something where the, cost of maintenance will come down. I want something where air condition will be there. Multiple. So you made him say all that. Once you say all that and you say, now, this is what I have, where the AC is there, where people will not fall down. Exactly what you said, I have in front of you. You get it? This is the time, after you reach this stage, is the time to bring the solution. Then the solution is tailor-made for the situation. It is not a misfit. Any time earlier than this, if you start opening the solution, what happens? I'll tell you. Typically, most sellers start talking features. This is what we said. Most of the time when you go to a salespeople for many, many years have been told you must go and sell, go and present, take your product. They have a big presentation. They start selling the features. The moment you start selling features, first of all, you don't know if your customer wants it. But you're offering him something. Immediately his antenna will go up. Oh gosh, it's going to be very expensive. Why is he saying all this to me? I never even asked, but he's going on saying many things. I think it's going to be costly. This is the automatic reaction in any buyer if you start talking about your product features. Then there is something called an advantage. There's something called a benefit. There's a subtle difference between the two. An advantage is, see, a feature is of a product. Okay? For example, let's say laser pointer is a feature. Okay? It's not a, so what? What does the feature do? It saves me time from walking up there and pointing it. I can stand here and point. But that is an advantage. Okay? Is it a benefit? Is it for example, if I'm going to stand here all the time and present, I don't need that feature at all. It's an advantage. It's of no use to me because, okay, so the difference between advantage and benefit is something where the customer has articulated that he has a need. Then benefit is there. If the customer has not articulated a need for something, but you are going and saying this is a benefit, that's an advantage. Okay. So advantage means customer will start objecting. Because he doesn't need it. He says, I don't want that. Is that clear between feature, advantage and benefit? How do you know it's a benefit? Because the customer has, in the previous, here he has explicitly stated that I want all these. Okay, then you're fitting the solution and you're now able to, here there's a complete agreement because he's already articulated it.